Good morning, great morning. It is the day that the Lord has made. We are choosing to rejoice and be glad in it. I'm Angela Thornton. This is Wise Word Ministries. Great morning, afternoon, evening to the replay family. Thank you. Hey, Ro. Hope everybody had a good weekend and this springing forward did not throw you off too much. That loss of an hour. Uh, and y'all know what? Daylight saving time. This springing forward is getting longer and longer because we don't fall back until November 1st. Did y'all know that? We got 8 months of this. And then we fall back in November. I'm just saying. I just want y'all to know. But anywho, here's to hoping you had a really good weekend. All is well in your world. And I forgot, I don't know if it's 2025 or 2026. They're going to eliminate it altogether. You won't be falling back at all. It'll just be you have sprung forward and you will stay forward. Just saying. Just want y'all to know. Anywho, we are starting Esther today. The book of Esther. Just want y'all to know. We are in Esther. And Esther has a very interesting story. I know most of us, in a short book, it's only 9 chapters. I know when we think of her, we normally think, if I perish, let me perish, all of that. If I perish, let me perish. We done made us a whole song. If I perish, let me. Okay, I'm sorry. Just imagine if I drank coffee. Yeah. So, throughout Israel's history, somebody has always wanted to try to destroy them. God's chosen people, the apple of God's eye. Folk just be like, well, let me see. Let me see. Let me see if we take you out what he'll say or do. One night with the king. One night only. Let me hold you tight if only for one night. Okay, I see I'm in my silly mode this morning. So, they came from covenants. They were a covenant people with their covenant God. Everyone around them knew that they were always the smallest group of people. But folk just weren't happy with them. A remnant of them, by the time we get to Esther, a remnant had returned to the promised land. Hey, Sandy. A remnant. Abraham, to the land promised of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our forefathers. Some had remained, some stayed in the cities of their captivity. Not everyone left Babylon and wherever they had been held captive, because, as we said, throughout Daniel, Babylon was overtaken by the Medo-Persians, who were overtaken by the Greeks. So we got a lot of overtaken in a lot of cities and stuff. So some people never left the cities of their captivity, Daniel being one of them. So some were welcomed, some was hated, despised, rebuked, and scorned. Level to the ground. Long as they got King Jesus. Okay, he wasn't there. Some were targeted. We just gonna eliminate y'all, exterminate you. We just gonna get rid of you. Esther's story is a 10-year period in their history between 58, it's a 58 to 60-year time period in the interlude of the book of Ezra. So Ezra starts, and then we have this Esther period, and then Ezra picks up. Esther tells us of this feast being inaugurated. And so because of one woman, hey fam, you feeling better? For the sake of her people, she did say, if I perish, I perish. We say, if I perish, let me perish. But she literally said, if I perish, I perish. So her story really is divinely inspired. Her story speaks to God's sovereignty. And here's something interesting. God is never mentioned in the book of Esther. Did y'all know that? God is never mentioned in the book of Esther. God is never mentioned in the book of Esther. There is a historical chart of the times between Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. God is never mentioned. And so there were several events that take place. Oh, good. Everybody is back home safely. Hallelujah. Several events that take place during the time of Esther. So I'm looking at this little map. So we have the king of Persia, Cyrus. I had to put my glasses on because these eyes are not 20. Cyrus. So Babylon falls in 539. Then you have 539 to 530. You have Cyrus, and you have Darius the Mede. So during that time, Zerubbabel returns. The return begins with Zerubbabel and the temple. In 534, the temple work is stopped. Hey, husband. Yeah. Then 520, the temple work resumes. So there's like a 14-year period between when it stops and when it resumes. And then you have the first 6 chapters of Ezra. And then you have somebody named Darius the First. The temple is finished in 516. He's here from 521 to 486. 486, the Feast of Xerxes. That's when you have this story of Esther. It's between the years 483 and 473. Xerxes or Ahasuerus. Then Ezra returns. And so then you have the second half of Ezra, chapter 7 through 10. And then Nehemiah returns in the final section. There is reference, but he's not mentioned by name. He's not mentioned by name at all. And then the book of Nehemiah, and he rebuilds that wall in 52 days. So Nehemiah returns. You feeling better, Daisy? If that helps. So it opens up. The book opens up. So the outline for chapter 1 is we have the banquet, the introduction in the first 3 verses, and then, the splendor of the king in 4 through 8, the queen's banquet, verse 9, the king's request, and she denies it, 10 through 12, the king's counsel, 13 through 15, the seriousness of what she did, the seriousness of Vashti, of what that meant in 16 through 18, and then her punishment and the king's decree. So as we're looking, the book opens up with a banquet being given by the king. Dude has a banquet. The events of that banquet eventually lead to him getting mad with the queen. So it tells us during the time of Xerxes, some Bibles will call him Ahasuerus, but that's the same person. He ruled over 127 provinces from India to Kush. which is why these maps are important. Remember the citadel of Susa. We saw the word Susa mentioned in Daniel. This is where Esther is, Susa. We also see that town mentioned, that province mentioned in Jeremiah. So you had the military leaders of Persia and Media, the Medo-Persians. And everybody that was important were there. All the nobles, all the military leaders, everybody who was important was at this banquet. Now, the first verse says, now it took place, or this is what happened. That's how Hebrews started a story. The name Xerxes is a Greek name from Ahasuerus. It refers to Xerxes I, but we don't have time to get through all this history. So at the beginning of his reign, he puts down rebellions in Egypt. He puts down rebellions in Babylon. Oh, I told you if you need me to make you some soup or something, I'll do it and bring it to you. So in the third year of his reign, before all of this happens against Greece, he holds a banquet. He holds a military party. Y'all, they said for a full 180 days, he displayed his wealth, the kingdom, the splendor, the glory, the majesty. You know how long you got the party? That's 6 months of party. 180 days, you just wanted to show off. Y'all was just drunkards. Anyway, when these days were over, he gave a banquet. And the banquet lasted 7 days. The banquet was a 7-day banquet. It was at his palace and all of that. He wanted to show what he possessed, and, very prideful. Very prideful. Okay. For a full 180 days. The banquet didn't last 180 days. His showing off did. So as he's doing what he's doing, he got all of this the luxury of his Persian palace and all of that. Everything is luxurious. Everything is over the top. We have all kinds of gold, and everything is golden and all that. In verse 9, the queen also has a banquet, Vashti. So that signifies that she was allowed to make some decisions. She was allowed to have some liberties. She was allowed to kind of do what she wanted. So she had a banquet. Some believe that she gave a banquet for women and that the men and women were segregated. Those who have studied Persian culture say their custom didn't require men and women to eat separately. They usually had their wives with them at these feasts. The name of, we say Vashti. Somebody else said her name was Amistris. However, we all know kings had more than one wife. Okay? The name Vashti means sweetheart. He told his 7 eunuchs to go get Vashti and bring her to the banquet hall so that she could be shown off, so that her beauty could be admired by the male guests. He said, go get Vashti, bring her so that everybody can see the beauty that I admire. The order was given on the last day of the banquet. Now, remember, y'all, they've been partying for 7 days. 7. They've been eating and drinking for 7 days. Now, we know eunuchs are men who've been castrated and men who serve the king, especially if they were to be around the queen. were castrated. It is a well-known practice. Her refusal is not explained. We just know she said, I'm not coming. They don't really tell us why. Too much. Some believe they wanted her to, be naked. But there's no real implication that that is what he wanted. She was lovely to look at. Both were beautiful. But Esther's wisdom. Verse 10 says, let me go back to verse 10. Verse 10 says he was high in spirits. The king was merry with wine. That's a nice way to say he was toe up from the flow up. That's a very nice way to say that. Bruh had about 10 too many. He was good and twisted. He was merry with wine, high in spirits. He was drunk. Hey, touch me. When he was merry with wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him to bring the queen before the king with her royal crown in order to display her beauty to the people and the princess, for she was beautiful. Now, it doesn't tell us that she was naked. It just says she needed to have her crown, and she needed to come, and she needed to sashay and strange, and she needed to sit and be beautiful so that everybody could see her in my drunken state. She said, no, I ain't coming. No. Tell him no. Rabbis thought the king wanted her to appear naked since she was to wear her royal crown. It doesn't say that. It just says he said put the crown on. It does not say he said take her clothes off. Jewish history says that. Scripture does not. We don't know why she refused. But what we do know is that she would have had to have been unveiled. And in that day, if you were coming before men who were not, you would have been veiled. That's the only way they could have beheld her beauty, is that they would have to have unveiled her. And that would have been a violation of the custom of the day. She also knew what it would be like to show her beauty before that large group of men who had imbibed too much, who were all toe up from the flow up. He gets hot. He gets fish grease hot. He is mad. One, you have said no to me, and now you have embarrassed me in front of all of these people at my party. We've been partying for 7 days. I've been showing my strength and my majesty and my sovereignty and all of my wealth and my palaces. And I have been showing that I am the king for 180 days. And we have ended in this 7-day banquet and feast. And I say, you come and you say no? What? You gonna embarrass me like that? Male ego is fragile. Fragile. Whew. Fragile. She said, I'm not coming. Mm-mm. Now, it says the account doesn't tell us if he was mad simply because she said no, or if her decision was really a serious offense. I tend to believe it was both. I tend to believe that saying no to the king was indeed a serious offense. I also believe that her saying no embarrassed him, because it was a formal command. He sent 7 eunuchs to get her, and she said no. Now, remember, all the officers, all the military leaders, all the officers of the entire empire were there. Thank you. She broke protocol. So if everybody is there, And now they're seeing this in their mind. If you can't control your wife, the queen, how are you going to tell us what to do? Her courage, though, has to be acknowledged. She refused to shame herself in public. She was brave. She was willing, listen, y'all, she was willing to give up her status and her position in order to do what was right. Her dignity was more important to her than her title, than her place in society as the head queen. Her act, though, of refusing to present herself literally is the same thing when you get to chapter 5 of what Esther did when she entered the king's presence without his permission. They both made it plain and said, "You ain't the boss of me. You are not in charge of me, sir. You are not in charge of me, sir." He suffered, though, because he was obsessed with power. He was obsessed with manipulation. He was obsessed with his power to control and manipulate everything and everybody. And she showed that he was, in fact, not that much in control, because I ain't coming. So now I'm embarrassed. Ego. She showed, buddy, your earthly power really ain't all of that. So it was customary in verses 13 through 15. Let me hear it. It was customary for them to consult experts in the matter of law and justice. So he says to the wise men of the times, he said to those who were close to him, according to the law, what is to be done with Queen Vashti, because she didn't obey my command. Then he speaks about himself in the third person. She did not obey the command of King Ahasuerus. Bro, why are you talking about yourself in the third person? That was delivered by the eunuchs. Right, courage, brave, dignity. So he said, well, what are we to do about this? Because this can't stand. Because then some of my other concubines, and maybe some of y'all can think that you don't have to do what I say. So one of them says, she has wronged not only the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. So she didn't just do you wrong. She did us wrong too. She didn't do nothing to you. So for the queen's conduct, here's the problem, y'all. Her conduct will become known to all the women, causing them to look with contempt on their husbands by saying King Ahasuerus commanded the queen to be brought in his presence and she didn't come. So now y'all worried that y'all the wives are going to get some backbone and say, hold up, if the queen didn't have to pay attention to obey the king, I got to listen to you. I don't have to do what you say. You're not the boss of me. Y'all see how that went? They're like, hold on, we can't have her starting this uprising of wives. Everybody was trying to get on. We can't have we can't have her doing that. No, sir. So now they have decided that she's wronged everybody. So now they say, this day the ladies of Persia and Media will have heard of her conduct, will speak the same way to all the king's princes, and there will be plenty of contempt and anger. Oh no, because we're going to go home and our wives are going to start saying, what? Oh, she said no? I'm not doing it. You fix it. You get up and do it. You see how everybody's ego. One woman was brave and everybody else decided we can't let them be brave. It is literally like reminded me here of the civil rights movement. One person decided, oh no, we got the right to vote and I'm going to fight. So no, we got to make an example out of them and put everybody down because we don't want the rest of y'all thinking that you got the right to vote or you got the right, you got these rights too. Oh no, we're going to make an example of this person. You see it throughout the history of the Bible. Oh no. That's what when they would crucify people, they crucified the Jews. They would do it and turn them toward Israel because we don't want the rest of y'all thinking that, they were afraid of her power. So then there's this punishment and decree in verses 19 through 22. Therefore, if it pleases the king, now here's what they're saying to the king. He's so weak-spinded. He letting them tell him, if it pleases you, king, why don't you issue a royal decree and let it be written in all the laws of Persia and Media, in the Medo-Persian land, that can never be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of the king. Issue a decree, irrevocable. She ain't never to come in your presence again. And also let the king give her royal position to somebody else who is better than she. Why don't you just take this queenship from her and give it to somebody else who is more amenable and going to do kind of more what you say, better than her? And then when the edict is proclaimed throughout this whole realm that you are in control of, all the women going to respect their husbands. Well, no, they're not going to respect you. They're just going to be afraid of you. From the least to the greatest, even the lowest of the low servant going to have a wife that's going to respect her husband because of what you say, that Vashti is never to enter your presence again. And notice what it says. The king and his nobles were pleased with this advice. He was pleased with that advice. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. But she won't shame me no more. So the king did as Memucan proposed. He sent dispatches to all the parts of the kingdom, to each province in its own script, to each people in their own language, proclaiming in each people's tongue that every man should be ruler over his household. How do you go from the she can never come in your presence to every man is ruler over his household? How you go from that to this? How do you go from one to the other? Just royal wuss all around. Vashti is not the wicked queen she's made out to be. He absolutely had no idea. So you should have left Vashti where she was, bruh. But you let your ego get in the way. Now God getting ready to set this whole thing up. So chapter 1, Vashti said, you gonna learn the day, buddy. Chapter 1 ends with suspense. And you like, okay, what happens next? The narrative literally just closes on the scene. And then we open up to a whole new empire. Since the author was Jewish, there said 3 things need to be said. The reader now knows that a new character is needed to replace Vashti. So we're going to have a new queen. This character we now know is Esther. We also know that like Miriam, like Deborah, like Ruth, she's going to emerge, become a heroine of her people. Third is that God is implicit, but not explicitly mentioned. We also know that Xerxes, as a Gentile, is going, God's sovereign choice of the new queen is going to take place. He think he choosing, he don't know. Vashti entered and exited courageously. And she literally has prepared the way for one to replace her and to have even greater courage. Vashti was a woman of courage. She was a woman of dignity, integrity. She refused to allow herself to be paraded and unveiled before a bunch of drunken men. As a result, she lost her position. She lost her social standing. She lost her power. But she was willing to give that up because her dignity and what was right was more important than having stuff. Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to give up our privilege? She gave up her privilege. She was excommunicated and exiled. We don't know if she was executed, but we do know she was banished. And she was seen as one who would cause trouble because other wives would follow if he didn't do something drastic. And he, being such a lily-livered, weak king, said, oh yeah, that sounds good. We do that. It is believed, according to history, that she was the daughter of a Babylonian king. She was the daughter of Belshazzar. You know, Belshazzar, who died when that hand came up on the wall and started writing from the book of Daniel. It is believed that she was his daughter. She was captured by the Persians when they overtook Babylon. She was given to Xerxes as a wife. She refused to do what he said. She didn't know what they was going to do. It's the only time in the Bible that she's mentioned. She took her loss and moved on. And we don't know what happened to her after. We don't know if they killed her. We don't know if they said, okay, chick. We don't know if they banished her to the hinterland, but what we do know is she couldn't come in the king's presence no more. And they issued an edict that said everybody's wife had to do what they said. Can you just see that? Well, King, what you think? What must we do? That's what I think you should do. History says that she was exiled. I'm looking at another country. She was exiled. She would remain in Persia, but she was exiled. Her privileges, her duties as queen were revoked. Queen was never used in her name ever again. She was deposed and set on her own. So here she is now, a woman in that culture with no protection. Because she has no husband, because who's going to marry you after you was the king's wife? And they know that you got some, gumption with you. So there she was, set out on her own, basically. And so we do not know what became of her. But are you willing to give up your privilege, your status? I am reminded in today's world of the royal family in England, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. She married a prince after all of the heck she was put through, all the abuse and the trauma, and she was suicidal. That man said, I am a born prince. I was born into this. You can take the title of Duke, that's a gift, but I was born a prince. I am willing to give all of it up and take my wife and my baby out of this. I will give up all the privileges that come with being a member of the royal family, and I will make my own way with my wife to safety. 4 years later, they are still being abused for that decision. Are you willing to give up that kind of privilege? Servants and maids and wealth and fortune and fame and people, never having to carry money, never having to have a driver's license, never having to have a credit card, just everything always given to you. And you're waking somebody to put toothpaste on your toothbrush and put your clothes on and give all of that up for peace of mind, for dignity, for character. What are you willing to give up? Your place in British society at the top of the food chain. Brother left the family, left the country. He said, I'm out. I will protect her at all costs. And if that means giving up everything I've ever known, I'll do it. Esther said, I will not. I will not. Think about that. Maybe we see Esther in a different light now. Oh, I'm glad you had a good one, Kitty. Our reading for today. Zechariah 10:1 is the scripture. Yeah, she was his ticket to sanity. That brother said, y'all ain't going to abuse me no more. You're going to ask me for rain. You're going to call on me for showers of blessing in the day of your planting, for I cause your seed to grow. I cause the storm clouds to cover the land and your downpour of blessing to feed your seeds. You are destined to have an abundant harvest. Can the devil steal it from you today? No. Can evil men steal it from you today? No. Can jealous people steal it from you today? No. Your harvest is secure in my hands. It is time you begin to reap hundredfold returns. Prepare yourself for the downpour of heaven. My rain produces power to draw people out of their pits, to lift them up and set them on the rock, and to release to them the songs of salvation. You will be continually watered in the middle of a crooked and perverse generations. Stand up, lift your heart in your hands to me, and get completely soaked in the rain. So just think about that. You marry into the royal family and you say, my peace is more important than this. I might be princess whoever, but my peace of mind, my sanity means more to me than all of this. Vashti said, no. Y'all been drinking for 7 days. I'm not doing it. And as a result, she was exiled and banished. So tomorrow we'll look at Esther 2. Where we meet Esther. And we see who she is, who she starts out to be, and who she becomes. Because just because you start out one way, you can become who God has said you are. Y'all have a wonderful, blessed day. I will see you tomorrow. If you're in the DC area, be safe. It's still very windy. If you run, don't be out there running in all of this 40, 50 mile an hour winds. Walk in the house. I'll see y'all later. Thank you. Stand up. I love that in there. Stand up with your head held high. See y'all in the morning. Bye-bye. Thank you, Latonya.